Hi guys, for my first review I want to talk about an author who is very beloved by BookTube, but not so much this book because I've only ever seen one review and it was a little bit negative, which I disagree with. And this book is Gaiman's Fragile Things. It's by no means a new book. It was published in 2006 and it's a compendium of 27 short stories, or as he calls them, short fictions and wonders, and there are a few poems thrown in there as well. It's been on my TBR for about 3 months. I picked it up because of how beautiful the introduction was and the first couple of lines of the first short story. So we're going to jump straight in with the introduction. It gives us a brief insight into the writing process because Gaiman says at first this book was supposed to be 12 short stories, each with an unreliable narrator. But as the stories demanded to be told in different ways, they changed to third person, or more stories crept in, and one even had to be told through the months of the year. It also gives a really brief anecdote as to why each story was written, so I want to give you a quick spoiler-free summary of my absolute favourites from this book of 27. Hopefully it won't take too long. So we're going to start with the very first short story. It's called A Study in Emerald. As the name might suggest, it's based on Arthur Conan Doyle's A Study in Scarlet, except he was challenged to also include the world of H.P. Lovecraft. At first this may seem paradoxical because Conan Doyle is based in logic and the stark reality of London, whereas H.P. Lovecraft deals in the monstrous and the uncanny. But Gaiman manages to weave these two worlds together with an almost unsettling ease. It's beautifully written and at no point do you try and pull yourself out of this reality he's created. It follows Study in Scarlet very closely with the murder and the writing on the wall, and even down to the calculations done about the tread of the murderer, except it also includes elements of the theatrical and of freedom fighting, and humans are overruled by strange monsters who are known as royalty. For fans of Conan Doyle's original style of narration, you will be really pleased that is maintained, but there is also a big twist at the end, so this one is well worth a read. Next up is The Fairy Reel, which is the first of 2 poems I'm going to be telling you about from this book, and it's one of my favourites. It's only 2 sides long. It's so beautiful and lyrical, and even Gaiman himself says it's not really a poem, it's just something fun to read aloud. And I've done that many times. So just read it out loud in a room by yourself and listen to how the words work and how they sing. It's stunning. Next up is a short story I'm really excited about because I really like experimental things with short story. I think that's the medium you can play with. And it's called Forbidden Brides of the Faceless Slaves in the Secret House of the Night of Dread Desire. And it's about a struggling writer, but it's set in a reality where the 1950s horror is the reality and realism is to write about that, and fantasy is looked down upon because our society is fantasy. And once you get your head around that, it's a stunning read because it's all about ekphrasis and it's really meta because it's how we write and how we struggle against what we want in order to almost sell out, and how euphoric it is to write how you feel. But just look at the form. Look how it changes when Gaiman narrates and writing happens, and it's all split into different parts, and it's beautiful. I've become a really big form nerd recently, whereas maybe a couple of months ago I didn't really understand what the word meant, but now it's lifeblood. The next story I want to talk about is called Other People, and it's Gaiman's view of what hell might be like, and it's quite short so I won't tell you much else without spoiling it, but I will tell you that it's not gory, it is emotional, and I feel it's quite harrowing. It's one of the stories that really stuck with me, and it's one of the ones I've really read the most from this book. It has a nice strong resolution which isn't what you're expecting, but I think to call it a twist in this instance might undermine it a little bit. Next, Keepsakes and Treasures. It follows a very unreliable narrator who you become deeply uncomfortable with as the story goes on, but it is very effective at demonstrating the darker side of London and the crime that is committed there, as we follow a story of human trafficking in a way. It's also quite powerful in showing how vulnerable people are drawn into crime and how that consumes their lives. Harlequin Valentine is next, and how do I describe Harlequin Valentine? As you might guess, it's about the mythical Harlequin set on Valentine's Day when he nails his heart to the door of a lady named Missy. And again, it's quite short so I won't tell you anything else. But there's quite a poignant message about how our love is received and love from afar, which is quite beautiful in its own sort of way. Next I want to group 3 of these short fictions and wonders together, 2 of which are stories and 1 of which is a poem, purely because they're all about aliens and aliens, guys. Goliath is a little bit Matrix in that it will make you doubt your reality and paranoid every time you have deja vu, but it's very satisfying to read. Whereas How to Talk to Girls, you can really see Gaiman's British childhood coming through in this, purely from his style in this story. And the writing itself is very lyrical and hypnotic, and it lulls you into the story, and the story lingers with you for quite a long time, as it would have lingered with the main character. So I think that was a really clever way to use his words in that story. So the final one out of this little sci-fi bundle I want to talk about is a poem called The Day the Saucers Came. And it's not often you get horror and sci-fi and romance and a little bit of social commentary all mixed into a poem, which is really refreshing. And it talks about how not even zombies or aliens or robot overlords matter when you are looking at a phone that doesn't ring. And I just think it's really beautiful. The final short story I really want to talk about is called Sunbird, and it follows a gastronomy club called the Epicurean Club, who are beginning to grumble because they've eaten everything. So one member suggests a trip to Egypt to eat the rare and elusive sunbird, which none of the other members have ever heard of. And this character is called Zebediah T. Crawcrustle, which I realise is very hard to say out loud, and he fills the foreshadowing and the mystery of this little piece. And I feel that Gaiman quite intricately manages to capture a sense of ancientry and mystery and euphoria in quite a dark piece. I think it's very well done, because there is this sense of wonder to it. Finally, I just want to give you a little warning about the very last piece in this book. It's called The Monarch of the Glen, and it's a novella based on Gaiman's novel The American Gods. And if, like me, you haven't read that yet, you won't be able to finish the book for spoilers. But you know, it's well read. I've read each story 2 or 3 times, so I think I've honorarily finished this book. And the reception was not as I was expecting it to be when I did a bit of research about the book. A lot of people did not like this book on Goodreads, but I feel that Gaiman's style is very unique, and you either love it, like me, and you buy all of his books well before you actually have time to read them, or you really dislike it. And I think the thing with all short story collections is there are going to be some you love and there are going to be some you really dislike, because that's the nature of short story, and as such I can't give this a full 5 out of 5 as much as I would like to, purely because a few of the poems didn't really work for me personally. So I'm going to give it a 4.8769 out of 5. So I'm going to leave you guys with a quote from the introduction, which is, "There are so many fragile things after all. People break so easily, and so do dreams and hearts." I'll see you soon. Bye. Just to let you know what else is going on in my life, I'll be going to Amsterdam in a few days, and the book I'm going to take with me is Station 11 by Emily St John Mandel, and it's the winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award. And really all I know about it is that it's set in a dystopian future where surviving isn't enough and people still really want the arts. So a group of travelling thespians go on the road and they encounter some adventures. And it sounds like quite a fun read, so I will let you know how I feel about this after Amsterdam. And PPS, there's this little illustration in the front of Fragile Things that I forgot to show you guys. And if anyone knows what that is referencing or what that's from, let me know in the comments and let me know what you've been reading recently. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Bye!